Hey, Civics scholars, I'm going to go through the review guide for Unit 1 test here. I'm going to go through it all together, and I thought this might be a better option to do it so that those of you that need to stop it and write some things down or to check on some of your stuff, it's easier for you to do this than in class. We all did it together. While you're going through this, though, if you do have questions or you need me to clarify some things, make sure you jot those down or highlight them or something so that you can either ask me in class here as we're all sitting here together, or you can come back to class on Monday or Tuesday, depending on whichever date you are taking the test, or over the weekend when you're all studying hard, which I'm sure you'll all be doing. You can email me the questions that you may or may not have. But having this video, you'll always be able to go back to it and check it out to look for the answers that you might need to help fill out the study guide. So here's the study guide. I'm going to pull it up on my screen here. And this is the key then to the study guide. So it's got all the right answers on here. So as we go through, like I said before, looking up here, the documents you can look back at, the presidential versus parliamentary democracy T-chart, the crossword puzzle. If you go all the way back, like the 5.1, the 1.2, some of those homework assignments, stuff dealing with naturalization with citizens, and anything else that we've gone over with different types of government. We took some notes on those things as well and purposes of government. So if you need to do some more studying besides this, go back and look at all those homework assignments that we've done in class. But to go over the study guide here, so to go over the key, I'm just going to go right down the list of all these definitions for these vocab words that we had. So first of all, communism. That's government that redistributes all the wealth equally. Then federalism. Power to make decisions is divided between central governments and the lower levels of governments. So they each have some power, where the central government can do some things as well as the lower levels, which is often like states or provinces, as well down to like cities. Then there's the oligarchy, a system of government in which a few people rule. Then constitutional monarchy, a monarchy where the monarch is a figurehead. Like we said, England is like this. The country is also, though, ruled through elected parliament members. Then there's the absolute monarchy, a system of government in which a king, queen, emperor, etc. is the sole and absolute monarch. So they've got like complete control. It might fall underneath the like totalitarian type of government. A confederation, that is where the power to make decisions, so laws, rules, regulations, is held at lower levels, and the central government is only given powers that lower levels wish to grant them. Republic, that's a government where power is held by the people and their elected officials. Like we've said, we've got a republic here in the United States. If you look back up at the top, we've also got a federalism system. Then dictatorship, a system of government in which one person has seized power and is the sole ruler. Excuse me. Democracy, that's where power resides with the people. And a presidential democracy, that's a form of government in which a head of government, oftentimes a president, hence the name presidential democracy, leads an executive branch that is separate from the legislative branch. Next, we have the parliamentary democracy, form of government in which a head of government comes from and gains their power from the legislative branch. We've got totalitarian, a system of government where every single part of an individual's life is controlled and watched by the government. Next, we have a representative democracy, a democracy where the people elect representatives to rule for them. So again, we've got that here in the United States, right? We elect officials to go do our governing for us. Then there's direct democracy, a system of government where the people rule. And lastly, there's monarchy, a system of government that is run by a king, queen, emperor, etc., and their family. Powers usually passed down within the royal family. Next, the political philosophers. And here you needed to Write down the 4 political philosophers, which I think were already listed for you. You just need to put down what type of government they thought was the ideal form of government. So with Thomas Hobbes, he felt that a totalitarian or absolute monarchy was the best because there, the government, sorry, my lights keep going off, have total control. And he believed that people were born evil and selfish, and that to keep people from acting on their evilness or their selfishness, that there needed to be some absolute control by like usually one person or a very small group of people to make sure that people were falling in line and not doing bad things. John Locke was in favor of a representative democracy like we have here in the United States. Again, he felt people were good, and because people were good, they could choose good people to lead them or to represent them. Karl Marx was in favor of communism, keeping in mind he felt like that if wealth was redistributed and then we didn't have social classes in terms of people's amount of money they had, or what we call socioeconomic status, that there wouldn't be problems, that everybody would have the same amount of wealth and stuff. So no one would have anything to complain about and everybody would get along just fine. And lastly, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he was in favor of that pure democracy, that he felt that, again, people were good and that people should then be allowed to be able to vote on everything and have a say, a direct say in their government. All right, the 5 purposes of government. Number 1, public services. So we're talking about schools, transportation, etc., things like that. Law and order. Here we talk about police, the court systems. Security was the third one. When we talk about security, we're talking about like national security. The military would be a good example of that. And then economic decisions. Here's where the government steps in. One of their purposes to help to control inflation so that prices of goods and services don't go up too fast. Help to control interest rates so that we're allowed to take out loans from banks. To take care of trade between, within our own country, between states and businesses, but also within businesses in our own states and other countries. And then also they use taxes to help make some economic decisions. There was a 5th dot there for you, but we're not going over any of those other ones. Okay, the citizenship with the naturalization process. Sorry, I don't have anything written down there, but hopefully you have some of those steps to the citizenship process where, first of all, people need to apply for it. Then people need to live in the country for 5 years, or if they're married to a U.S. citizen, for 3 years. They need to live in the state that they're applying for a couple of months. Then they need to do an interview with our government, with the government agent. Then they need to take that test where they have to get 6 out of 10 of those questions correct. And then if they can do all that stuff, then they need to go through the ceremony where they basically pledge an oath that they are going to defend the country and defend the Constitution and that they want to be a U.S. citizen. All right, then the legal duties of citizens. Obey the law, attend school, pay taxes, serve in court. Remember, the 2 ways to serve in court would be to either testify as a witness or if you get called for jury duty, and then defend the nation. And that goes back to that selective service system that all young men need to sign up for at the age of 18 in case there is a draft and that we need more people to go into the military for us. And then responsibilities of citizens. Remember, we need to be informed. So you got to watch CNN 10 every day with Carl Zeus. Contribute to the common good. And people do that through volunteering their time, their energy. Oftentimes it's through donations, monetary donations, money. Vote. Respect others' rights and respect diversity. So next up was this quiz here that's obviously not going to be graded as a quiz, but had all of these vocab words on the left-hand side with definitions on the right-hand side, and you just simply needed to match them up. So number 1 was dictatorship. And if we go down to letter I, this is in this government, one person has seized all the power. Number 2 is oligarchy, and that was B, so rule by a few. Number 3 was anarchy. That would be C, no government. Number 4 was absolute monarchy, which would have been E, a king or a queen that makes all of the decisions. Number 5, Presidential democracy, which was G. People rule in this type of government. An example would be the United States. Number 6, parliamentary democracy. It was F. Again, people rule in this type of government. An example would be Great Britain or England. Number 7, totalitarian would have been J. Every single part of an individual's lives is controlled or watched by the government. Number 8, communism was A. All resources are spread out equally in this type of government. And number 9 was aristocracy, or D. Rule by a few very wealthy individuals. And lastly, number 10 was a constitutional monarchy, which would have been H. In this government, the king or the queen is only a symbol of the nation. Okay, 11 and 12 asked you for kind of some short responses. Describe in number 11 the difference between a direct and an indirect or representative democracy. In a direct democracy, all the people directly are involved in most government decisions, where in a representative democracy, the people choose representatives to do their governing for them. Number 12, please describe the difference between a unitary and a federal system of government. In a unitary system, a strong central government makes most decisions for all the levels of government. And in a federal system, which is like what we have today in the United States, power is divided and shared between a central government and regional or local governments. All right, 13 through 16 asked for please label each form of government as unitary. So you could use a U, or a confederation, so a C, or federal system of government. A totalitarian government is definitely going to be a unitary government where there is a strong central government, oftentimes maybe just one person that is in control of everything and dictates everything that happens. Number 14, a democracy would be F, so a federal system, like that's what we've got, right? Where we've got a strong central government that makes some decisions, but also they share and divide power with more of the regional governments, like our states and our cities. 15, a dictatorship would have been U, also another unitary type of government. There we go. And 16 would be C. The former Soviet Union was a confederation. They had lots of different like provinces or areas, like our states, and they were all kind of underneath this one umbrella government called the Soviet Union. True or false? It says true or false. Say true or false, sorry. Characteristics of democracy. So 17, in a democracy, only the wealthiest people have the chance to vote. That would be false. Hopefully you know that just from living in the United States, that not just the wealthy people get to vote. 18, a characteristic of a democracy is that individuals have freedom. True. 19, in a democracy, there's more than one political party. True. And 20, in a democracy, the minority makes the decisions. That's false. The majority usually makes the decisions. Okay, then comparing presidential and parliamentary democracies, I basically wrote down everything that we had on that worksheet that we went over the other day with comparing presidential and parliamentary democracies. You don't need to have everything on there, but a big portion of this test, including the writing portion of this test, deals with presidential and parliamentary democracies. So you want to have a good grasp on this stuff. So on the left-hand side, I'll just kind of go back and forth because I kind of paired up the information about a presidential and parliamentary together. So like we start here, a presidential democracy has 3 branches of government where power is divided, as opposed to a parliamentary democracy where the parliament or the legislative branch has pretty much all the power. So power is not divided. Next down, a presidential democracy, they have a president chosen by the people. And the parliamentary democracy, they have a prime minister chosen by the legislative branch, not necessarily by the people. A presidential democracy, the president appoints a non-legislative person to fill their cabinet. So their cabinet is full of people that aren't in Congress or part of the legislative branch. In Parliament, the prime minister chooses their cabinet from people from Parliament, from that legislative branch. They pick people. For a presidential democracy, there's a Supreme Court that can declare acts or things that the legislative branch or executive branch does. They can declare those things unconstitutional and stop them from doing those things. Whereas in a parliamentary democracy, that top court, whatever it's called, I know like in Great Britain, it's called the House of Lords, they may not overrule Parliament. In a presidential democracy, a president cannot remove legislators, where a prime minister can call for early elections in a parliamentary system to see if some of those people that they may not be real satisfied with or that they don't feel are doing a good job in parliament could lose their jobs by getting voted out in the election. A president in the presidential side can be removed by, remember we talked about it's a two-step process. There's a vote in the House of Representatives for impeachment, and if that goes through, if that passes, then there's a trial in the Senate where the people in the Senate, the senators, they basically act as the jury for that trial. To remove a prime minister from office in a parliamentary system, there needs to be either a no confidence vote, where they vote that that person, or there's no confidence in that person, nobody trusts that person anymore, they don't think they're doing a good job, and then the majority party would then decide on who their new leader is going to be. In terms of political parties in a presidential system, they're less structured, and it's not uncommon for the president and one or both houses of Congress. Remember, Congress is made up into two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. And it's not uncommon for the president and one or both houses of Congress to be from different political parties. In a parliamentary system, the same political party always controls both the legislative and executive branches, because remember, the executive, the prime minister, comes from the party that is in control in the legislative branch or in parliament. And then lastly, in a presidential system, the legislative branch, so our Congress, has all the lawmaking powers. They're the ones that write the laws. They make the laws. The president has the power to veto them and stop them, as does the Supreme Court. But the legislative branch are the people that make the laws. In a parliamentary system, same thing. Parliament has all the power to make laws. They're the people that are supposed to be doing that. That's their primary job. And then lastly, the true or false. Number one, both presidential and parliamentary systems have one specific executive leader. Yes. In a presidential system, it's the president. In a parliamentary system, it's usually what they call a prime minister. Two, true or false, in both presidential and parliamentary democracies, the people elect their legislators. Yes, that's correct. In the United States, we elect our people to go to Congress for us. And in like Great Britain, they elect people to go to Parliament for them. Number three, in both presidential and parliamentary systems, the people elect their executive leader. False. In a presidential system, we elect our president. Remember, in a parliamentary system, the people in Parliament or in the legislative branch, they are the ones that choose who the prime minister is going to be. Number four, presidential democracies do not have an independent judicial branch of government. False. They both do. Or excuse me, the presidential does. We have our Supreme Court. Number five, parliamentary democracies do not have an independent judicial branch of government. Again, false. They have the House of Lords. Six, parliamentary democracies have a combined executive and legislative branch. True, because the executive comes from the legislative branch, from Parliament. Seven, a president is elected by the legislature or Congress in a presidential democracy. False. They are elected by the people. Number eight, a prime minister does not serve for a specific set term. I put true for this one. There are a few places that they do, but otherwise they're just there until elections come back up. Number nine, true or false, a president does not serve for a specific set term. A president does not serve for a specific, they do. They serve for a 4-year term, and they're only allowed to serve for 2 of them at the most. And number 10, which system has more specifically structured political parties? That'd be a parliamentary system. All right, that is all of the review guide. That's the key for it. If you need to go back to look at some things, there it is for you. You can keep clicking on this link on this video, and you should be all set with that. If you do have questions about some of these things, though, either ask me right now while we're still in class, or bring your questions with you for first, third, and fifth hours on Monday, and for fourth and sixth hours on Tuesday, and you might be able to ask it. We'll spend the first few minutes of class opening up for any questions, last-minute questions people have, or email me over the weekend. because it is a test weekend for us, I will try my hardest to keep checking my email maybe a little more frequently than I usually do. So shoot me an email and maybe I can answer your question for you. Happy studying. Good luck studying. Remember, people that do these study guides and spend a little more time on them, 99.9999999% of the time, they tend to do better on the test than students that choose not to do this stuff. So again, happy studying. Good luck studying. If you guys have been paying attention to 7 class, you're going to do just fine. So have a great weekend, and I will see you guys all on Monday or Tuesday.